Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Early Bird Special Precap. I call it the Early Bird Special because I own a bird and it's 5 in the morning. So, there you go. If that's your style of humor, great, stick around, enjoy the show. And if not, stick around and suffer through the show because I cater to both sides here. I'm going to be the designated recapper for REL Division 10H. That is correct. You are one of the divisions that has so lucky a dual sponsorship for both a number and a letter, just like Sesame Street. 10H is pretty much an entirely fresh roll division, so don't expect to see anyone with breakout amounts of SPP starting off here. You all have a clean slate, and so it's really up to you to screw up. So good luck to all of you. Let's go ahead and take a look at who your opponents are going to be, who's going to be your rival, who's going to be your friend. Who's going to be that one team that you're not looking forward to? Let's start at the top. So, coming in first, we've got Jimmy Jam, who, as far as my research could tell, is signing up for REL for either the first time or they did not play Season 9 or 8. He's got a brand spanking new Amazon team, and the build here is... Well, I know the Amazon standard is you get all 4 blitzers, and then it's really up to you how many non-line women you want to take. Typically, people ignore the throwers because they start with pass and dodge as opposed to sure hands, and it's not really a useful skill for them. Here, we see that Jimmy Jam has gone for double catchers. Now, if I had to place a guess, I'd say that one of them is going to be getting sure hands. Maybe both, but I'm not convinced of that, so that they could be interchangeable. But then he could use them to cover 12 squares in one turn by making a handoff play. So, that might end up stretching the Zahn's screens a little long, but we'll see if he can pull that off. Either way, I can get behind the dual catcher build. I like the idea of it kind of doing a Brett Blitzer style play, but a little bit slower. His naming scheme, as you could already tell, and especially with how heavily the team name hits you in the face with it, he's using only the female character names from the Smash Brothers lineup, or Super Smash Brothers lineup. And I didn't know a whole lot about Smash Brothers Ultimate, so I double-checked, and if you exclude Dark Samus, there's only 16 names that he can use in total. So I expect to see numbers at the end of the names when they die and get replaced, as opposed to name cycling, just because I don't think the list is long enough without breaking the theme. So this will be fun to see how it plays out. And Zons are always a fun pick for the owning coach early on because there's barely any tackle around to really slow them down, unless you start getting hit by Dwarf and Chorf teams. Moving right along into Undead. These are the Sun Eaters. I choose to believe that this O and triple bracket here is some Unicron-esque entity who's devouring the sun. So, thank you for that visual there. So, Solar 128, also a new coach to the REL. He's gone for a fun little build here. Now, yeah, we've got 3 ghouls on the team, which I get. It gives you a total of 5 Agi 3 players to work the ball with, just in case your primary starts to go down. And I know Undead have to use ghouls, unlike Necro, where they're more of a optional or tertiary concern. So I can get the picking of the 3. I'm just not used to seeing it out of the gate because now it's more AV7 that he has to try and defend, more no regen players he has to try and protect. and it gives him fewer line zombies or less fodder to go on the line if he does start losing players. And speaking of, we do have a skeleton on this team. So I would expect to see this skeleton become the designated dirty player. Because, as everybody knows, if there's one thing more annoying when you're trying to foul, it's having to roll a GFI to pull it off. So this is why you'll see some undead pick up skeletons for that purpose. So this will be fun. And fun fact about this team, Solar would like us all to know that Decred is a superior cryptocurrency to Bitcoin. Yeah, I took some time in trying to figure this out. So I really hope I was accurate there, because that's the only thing that made sense. Coming up next, we got Chapo Trap House with Mammal being the coach. Mammal is also fairly new to the REL. And, well, let's talk about the rat ogre in the room. There's a rat ogre in the room. Yeah, you don't see many of those. For Skaven teams, even though they're good for busting open cages, a lot of people believe that it slows down the team development, especially for the Storm Vermin, because now they aren't doing your blitzing and earning extra SPP that way. You have the Rat Ogre in contention, and he's an unstable factor in what otherwise becomes a very kind of finely tuned rat team. So, I'll be curious to see how this works out for him. The naming scheme he's gone with is Chapo Trap House is the name of a reportedly funny political podcast, and I do believe that these are all the names of either people or potentially characters that have shown up on there. Unless the Noid harks to way, way back, but I don't know about that. Fun fact about this team. The Big Hearts for Big Admin Society, president and founder, Full Metal, would like to offer a I Told You So scholarship to Gorka. It is a free ride for the rest of this player's life, where Full Metal can say, I told you not to take a rat ogre, and feel good about himself. So congratulations to Gorka, and better luck to other candidates for next season. The Berserker Gang. We've got ourselves a token Norse in 10H. This is coached by Brider, who re-rolled from last season. He had a half-season old Chorf team. I think maybe he came in late or possibly from ramp-up. But now he's here, and he's making something with it. His build is... Well, it's the No Yeti start, which is a popular build. I myself loved the Yeti and refused to play without him. One point of contention that I'm sure some people may speak up about is having a thrower on board. Again, passing, not something that Norse are typically known for, nor is picking up catch. But we do have a thrower and we do have a runner. Now the runners are common to have one way or the other just because of that movement 7, and occasionally, well, and also especially because of No Yeti, that Dauntless is going to come in handy, making him something of the team's Giant Slayer. But I mean, if we see a sure hands and if we see a kitch on here, we might start seeing some Agi 3 Norse passing plays, which will definitely be a change of pace. So I'm curious to see just how deep Brider goes down this rabbit hole. While he did stick to stock names, he did go out of his way to make sure that they all ended in son. So, everybody's the son of somebody. I can appreciate that. Fun fact about this team. The Chorfs that he played last season, he announced that they weren't quite squishy enough, but he still really liked block. So, here we are. The true min-max. Okay, so here is our first coach with documented history for the division, Spoony Bard, who last season was still playing his Underworld in Division 3. So, and I think before that he may have had a Nurgle team. So he's been around the block a couple times. He, I think, took his Underworld as far up as he thought he could go, or as far up as they were willing to stay intact. So now we're coming back with more armor value 7, but less stunty. So we'll see if that pays off for him. The true min-max look as follows. 2 blitzers and 11 linewomen. So, starting off at just 880 TV, he can induce bribes game 1, provided he doesn't get the Goblin team, which would be kind of hilarious, actually. I'd pay good money to see that. So, yeah, I would expect to see a fair amount of fouling out of this team, especially if he's going to keep up. I'm curious if he's ever going to pick up more line women, but given that their 40 TV difference have access to strength skills and only start with block, he may just go blodge or raj on the rest of them to keep the price down. So we'll see how that goes for him. And especially if that's the case and he's not really going to be picking up much in the way of more expensive positionals, we might see some money be squirreled away towards a stadium enhancement sooner than later. The naming scheme is a bunch of reindeer and what eventually happens to reindeer. And righty and lefty just because, I guess. And fun fact, I've discovered that apparently mucklucks are a particular style of fuzzy boots. So, there you go. There's your thing that you potentially learned for the day. Now you don't need to learn anything else. Moving right along, we've got Ron Nation, who is also making, as far as I can tell, a first-time appearance in REL. And his team, Beast Wars Transformers. Fun fact, this is where my interest for Transformers started to wane. I did not like the animation. The script felt like it got more pandering to children. So, yeah, I miss my G1 and G2. But anyway, enough about me. Let's talk more about him. We've got a pretty lock, stock, and 2 smoking beastmen type of start here, where we've got our 4 warriors, the rest are beastmen, 3 rerolls, and I think after the first game or 2, depending on his winnings, we're going to see an apothecary pop up. So, a young chaos team in the rough. We'll see if he can shape them into diamond claws. Alright, we move on to economy of scale and REL. Now, REL also has been around the block before. Last season, he was playing in Division 6 with a lizard team of the same name. I get the impression that he took a couple Saurus casualties too many along the way, and rebuilding was slowly becoming an impossibility. So I think this is going to be a clean slate for him. I really do love the pun of the name as well as the player names. I have to say that Tackle Down Economics is probably my favorite Saurus on the team, and I'll be trying to pay attention to him as the season goes along. But pretty stock opening that we have here, where you have all your strength pieces, the Croxagore, all 6 Saurus, and then 4 Skinks to round out the numbers. A 2 reroll start does mean that any kind of bad blocking dice that he finds, not very likely to greed until he hits that sweet 120k gold where he can buy up that 3rd reroll at long last. So, yeah, this will be a fun one. And fun facts, this team once got tickets to see the Blue Skink group in Vegas, but they did not appreciate that joke and so did not attend. Moving right along, we've got the Monsterville. Oh god, how do you pronounce this again? Monsterville 1v1s. So, if I was talking about natural predators for Amazons, here they are. Which I'm sure they will be oh so glad to see. The coach is Slothius, and as far as I can tell, he's also new to the REL. And we have a pretty standard dwarf team composition here. Both runners, both blitzers, both troll slayers, and enough longbeards to fill out the rest of the team. All 3 rerolls. And gonna be looking for that first or second game apothecary later on down the road. And as fun as the naming style is, well, I don't have much that I can say about it myself, but I am going... I do have a video for this to explain my thoughts at the... I'm going to call it nomenclature, because we're not describing things, we're not naming things, we're naming people. So, you know, nomenclature.
You're not cooking. Yeah, dude.
Pork chop sandwiches. Oh shit! Get the fuck out of here! What are you doing? Go! Get the fuck out of here, you stupid idiot! Fuck, we're all dead! Get the fuck out! My God, did that smell good?
Detect it. There's no going, and you tell me do things. I done running.
G.I. Joe!
And yeah, if you draw parallels between that and the names here, I think you'll find a lot to compare with. Moving right on down the list, we have Trust in Gob. I knew I should have practiced pronouncing that coach name in advance. Keandre? You know what? You can PM me or comment on this video and let me know how I could not have screwed that up. But in the meantime, let's talk about your beautiful polka dot heavy goblins. So, fun thing here. Well, we do have a bench, and we have a sub TV 1000 roster, which is always great. We've got both trolls, which are red guard and blue guard. I can get behind that, and that's totally fine. We have Rumi the Fanatic, but instead of a chainsaw piece, we have Hizer the Pogoer. I'm gonna be curious to see just how much he ends up missing, or how much he feels the absence of that chainsaw with the great fouling capability that it brings with, that goblins seem to rely on. So having that extra leap, I mean, granted, he could turn this into the ball carrier and it's movement 7, but unless you get catch on somebody else, it's just an extra 3+ die roll before you then go out of your way to try and do your one turn with a thrown teammate. But especially for picking up deep kicks for one turn attempts, I don't hate it. I'm just not quite sure it's what you want off the bat to try and generate forward momentum with the team. So, you know, this will be interesting to hang on to. The naming scheme, as you can tell, is very colorful, much like Fraud for Economy of Scale. He has learned how to use the HTML coding in the player names to generate a color, and for those of you unfamiliar with it, by the time you have all the right code in place and you have your 8-character hex code for the color, you only have 5 characters remaining that you can actually use for the name itself, which is why all of these are 5-letter names or less. So, fun fact about that, these cultist numbers can never get into double digits. So, I'm curious to see if we're going to start seeing cult A, B, and C down the road, provided he can keep enough of these alive to have that problem. So, yeah. And fun fact about this team, never drink the Kool-Aid. Just, it's a cult. I don't advise it. End of story, really. Moving right along, we've got Dungeon of Doom. An undead team, our second of 3 that we're going to see in this division. And this is coached by Generic Gamer, who is also new to the REL. So we're going to have a lot of new faces coming up in this division. Welcome, welcome, all of you. Make sure to put on a name tag, and there's cookies and donuts in the corner. We've got a 3-ghoul build as well, and this time, no skeleton for fouling duty. So we do have a backup to put on the line of scrimmage in case of attrition. But that is it. Only one understudy in total. Yeah, we've got all wrestler names here. I do love to see Jimmy Hart making an appearance. Fun fact, Hulk Hogan was my favorite, so I hope that perhaps eventually we can see a zombie of him. But if not, then I'll know you did it just to spite me. So I'll be keeping my eye on you, Generic. Alright, only people we have left haven't accepted their tickets, so shame on them, and hopefully they will make it in time. We have the High Elf team, Please Be Gentle, coached by Dr. Thrax, PhD. This reminds me an awful lot of another High Elf team that's higher up in the divisions called Please Don't Murder Me. So we already have a recurring theme, I sense here. And Dr. Thrax has not been in any REL games in the past 2 seasons, so another new face here. Welcome aboard. We've got a 2-catcher, 2-blitzer, and thrower build to kick things off with 2 team rerolls. And we went ahead and spent our remaining 10k on some fan factor. So pay attention to your kickoff events, and if you lose a lot of them, you'll know that this was wasted money. But if you don't, then pat yourself on the back and tell everybody how smart you were. This is definitely going to be an aggressive build out of the gate, where you've got your 2 best scoring pieces already around and ready to start developing SPP on them. I personally started with 2 blitzers, a thrower, and the rest lineman, just because I wanted to max out on my armor 8 and get some skills on the blitzers first before the catchers start to outshine them and, in all frankness, demand the ball so that you can keep leveling them, because you're never done developing these catchers. There's always more that they could have, more that they feel like they need to have. And sometimes that'll make it difficult to also develop your blitzers if they're not getting casualties. So I'll be curious to see how development this season treats our good doctor here. If he has an easier or harder time than I did with my rookie High Elf team last season. So good luck to you there, Elf brother. And then 3 of 3 for undead teams. Chaos for Chaos' Sake by K-Pwned, and as you may have guessed it, also a fresh face. We've got the 3-ghoul here build again, which, fun fact, this is the top way that Fumble recommends you build a rookie undead team. I personally have used, BB Tactics for a lot of my needs in the past, and their builds always start off with 2 ghouls and then figuring out how many zombies and skeletons and how big you want your bench to be after that. So I can get behind this, though I do subscribe to the school of thought where I'd rather have more fodder to deal with injuries as the game goes along. The names here are all of people or things that are pretty much somewhere in the D&D chaotic spectrum. And then we have kids who are, the avatar of chaos themselves, or avatar of Zinch if you want to focus on the randomness of chaos. And Gandhi making a guest appearance. And K-Pwned, if you listened to this, let me know if you've ever played any of the old Civilization games where Gandhi would usually be the first one to throw nukes around. I'm curious if that's where this particular name came from. And that would be that. That has been your 12 teams in 12H. I'm sorry, 10H. I can do numbers, me. It's not that early. So I wish you all the best of luck, and do feel free to send me PMs or comment on this with anything you feel that I should have said or should not have said about your team, and I'll try to work that into following episodes. Have a good season, and I will see you all towards the end of round 1.